How is everybody today? We've got some seriously serious breaking news. Here is the headline over from Bloomberg Politics. They have for us a very interesting development. Even more documents have been found. You're kidding me. Oh man, that totally sucks for them. But not for us. It's hilarious. Literally breaking from Bloomberg. Biden lawyer finds more classified documents. And didn't we spend a whole segment yesterday talking about Karine Jean-Pierre? She said, no, it's done. We got it all. She didn't forget anything else anywhere else. It's all the documents. All right. No, it's like a fourth batch, 5 more documents discovered. Discoveries are a headache for Biden. This is the story. 5 additional pages of classified documents were discovered among material at President Joe Biden's residence in Delaware. White House special counsel Richard Sauber said, and we haven't heard much from him, right? The media was asking about him and the other guy, Bob Bauer, the other individual who is Biden's personal lawyer, who used to be the White House counsel over at the Obama White House. Sauber said that he went to Wilmington on Thursday. This guy, White House counsel, he's like, oh, sure, we got to get over there. He's like, I better get on a friggin' plane and get over there today. Oh, gosh, So he drops everything, hops on a plane, flies over to Wilmington to facilitate providing a document that Biden's personal attorney found the day to the Justice Department. Okay, so we're trying to tease out all the timeline here. The timeline's going to get very, very split. It's going to be like a Marvel universe. While transferring it to the accompanying DOJ officials, 5 additional pages with classification markings were discovered among the material for a total of 6 pages. Wonder where that was. Wonder what seat cushion they dug that out from. The latest discovery adds to the revelations this week that classified documents dating from Biden's vice presidency were found at his home and private office, which the White House kept secret from the public for months. Oh, man, that is so true. He's now facing a new political risk ahead of 2024, including a special counsel investigation led by a former Trump appointee. Well, they like to say that, right? That's why they pick these people. But the reason they're still around in the government is because they're probably quite favorable for the Democrats. Don't know. I know Kash Patel's unhappy with him. I know Thomas Massey, the representative, had some thoughts on that as well. Attorneys discovered classified documents, November. We already know all about that one. White House has said the documents were promptly returned, but aides have offered few answers about how the documents were improperly removed, what the documents were, why the White House waited to disclose their existence, who might have had access to the material, whether Hunter Biden knew how to use a garage opener, to get in and out of there. I don't know. The president's lawyers have attempted to balance the importance of public transparency, they say. This is Bob Bauer. A transparency where appropriate with the established norms and limitations necessary to protect the investigation's integrity. Give me a break. All right, so they're going to try to cover this whole thing up. They were trying to cover it up. I think as more and more comes out, we decided to use the term cover up yesterday because I think it's really kind of getting there. I think that if they could have gotten this sort of skid back in there, they would have done it. I've got questions about the special counsel meeting now. Their rebuttal to that would be like, no, 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 no. We already decided that there was going to be a special counsel back on January 5th. Is that what he said? Let's just check that real fast.
The prosecutor was also advised that those documents had been secured in an archives facility. On November 9th, the FBI commenced an assessment consistent with standard protocols to understand whether classified information had been mishandled in violation of federal law. On November 14th, pursuant to Section 600.2B of the Special Counsel Regulations, I assigned U.S. Attorney Lausch to conduct an initial investigation to inform my decision whether to appoint a special counsel.
Inform my decision.
Mr. Lausch has served as the U.S. Attorney in Chicago since 2017. Before that, he spent more than a decade as an assistant U.S. and expeditiously. On December 20th, President Biden's personal counsel informed Mr. Lausch that additional documents bearing classification markings were identified in the garage of the president's private residence in Wilmington, Delaware.
Where Hunter Biden parked his
President
car.
Biden's counsel informed Mr. Lausch that those documents were among other records from the period of the president's service as vice president.
Okay, January 5th.
The FBI went to the location and secured those documents.
Right.
On January 5th,
Okay.
2023, Mr. Lausch briefed me on the results of his initial investigation and advised me that further investigation by a special counsel was warranted. Based on Mr. Lausch's initial investigation, I concluded that under the special counsel regulations, it was in the public interest to appoint a special counsel.
All right, that's the question. We got to tease those two things out there. One is the meeting. So certainly we're going to see that the meeting took place on January 5th, that Lausch briefs Garland. Now, did he say in that statement that on that day he made the decision we needed a special counsel? Or did he say, thank you for the brief? Okay, thanks for the brief. I'll think about this because it took a long time for him to decide to appoint a special counsel for Trump. Remember that? Now, his argument, his rebuttal would be Trump is not in office anymore. Biden's in office. So maybe it's more clear of a conflict of interest. So that justifies a special counsel appointment much more rapidly. He didn't need to think about it as much, but I doubt it. I guess my question, I would love to, if I could ask John Lausch a question, this guy, I would say, hey, John, what was the conclusion after your January 5th meeting? Did Merrick Garland say, okay, thank you for your advice. You're exactly right. We are going to appoint a special counsel. I'll be looking to you for recommendations on any names. Job well done. We'll have an announcement sometime in a couple weeks as soon as we have names in place. And in other words, did they come up with a plan on that day, on January 5th? The decision had been made, in other words, to appoint a special counsel. Or did it go another way? Did Merrick Garland say, thank you, John? That's a great job. You did a great job. Let me think about this. I'll mull it over, just like he needed to do for like 3 weeks with Trump. Or actually, it was longer than that, right? It was like a couple of months, I think. Yeah, because we went from special master to then special counsel. Special counsel was necessary after the J6 committee started to get wrapped up and they needed to continue the investigation. The question would then be, did Garland make the decision before or after the story leaked? Because if he made the decision before the story leaked, okay, then you could say the special counsel was already going to happen. But the story broke on January 9th, and then we get a bunch of activity. Biden makes a statement, Karine makes a statement. Then we get the special counsel appointed on the 12th. And you don't know, right, what that looked like. I think they were probably scrambling to appoint a special counsel. What they probably wanted to do is just make this a simple overdue library book situation. And they just return the library books. Nobody needs to know about it. There's no fines, there's no penalties. It's just return the books. The only reason we had to make a big deal about Trumpo is because he was obstructing. Otherwise, this stuff's normal. It's just routine business. If it ever leaked out and it had all been returned, it just would have been like, oh no, it's just regular business. They just National Archives sent some letters. If Trump would have done that, this would have been much ado about nothing. I think they were probably trying to go that route. But CBS breaks the story and boom, then they start scrambling. They go, ah, crap. What was the back and forth? When did CBS have their eyes on the story? So did CBS have an indication about this before January 5th? Send a memo in, send a letter, send hey, we've got an indication here, DOJ, that we've got a source that tells us that you're investigating Biden for confidential documents. Care to comment? They corroborate it with somebody else. Boom, story gets published on January 9th. January 9th is a Monday. So the story develops at the end of the week, 4th, 5th, 6th, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Comment, no comment. Boom. Monday, it drops on the biggest news day ever. Biden's getting hit. Everybody pays attention to the story. So did they meet? In other words, was this meeting now conducted because they knew the story was coming? Well, we better meet. The media is hot on this one. Story's going to break on Monday because you know how this stuff goes, right? They know when these stories are coming. CBS breaks the story. Then they have to paper over it. Crap, we got to appoint a special counsel. So, right then, that leads me to believe there's just a massive cover up. Sounds like guys like Mark Elias start cleaning up their Twitter timeline. Don't know why. Very convenient. But that all gets cleaned up. And then Karine is asked point blank about this. Did you know about this stuff? And there's all these documents floating around out there. His lawyer, White House counsel's flying around. Very, very strange. Now, again, so what I did is I went back actually yesterday because I didn't think to check this, But this clip from Joe, I wanted to know when that was. So here's another thing I think would be awesome for the weaponized individuals out there, or I'll keep my eye out for it as we go through this stuff, of course. But we're looking for this statement from Biden came out in September. So if we just September 2022, that was before they were officially notified about the documents. Now it's still a damning statement because it was his property. They were his documents. He was in control of them. So it kind of doesn't matter when the statement was, right? Because it's like Trump's reckless for mishandling documents. Well, it's pretty evident now. Just the fact that you have possession of these things is evidence of your mishandling according to your own standards. And that what Trump did was not normal at all. No entitlement. Everything should have gone back. No excuses. The timing is not bad, but the timing would have been way worse if it was after the documents were discovered. So any statements basically after November 4th from the White House, any statements after November 4th that were derogatory towards Trump, that were condescending towards Trump about, or his lawyers, or if Karine had any statements like this or irresponsible or anything after November 4th, they were all on notice about this. And Joe Biden, too. I don't know the timelines, we cover so much stuff here, but if he said anything about the Mar-a-Lago situation after November 4th, they were on notice. And then that makes them just gigantic hypocrites on top of everything. Now they know they committed the same issue and they're all out there, which is probably why guys like Mark Elias were deleting tweets like this, because it makes them look like idiots. Because they were saying that all of that applies to Trump, but now all of it really could apply to Biden. And so they're all just trying to clean it up. This is a big scandal. It was a big scandal for Trump, right, to have the FBI raid him, and he's not a sitting president. We were all talking about that in the context of, will it disqualify him from running again? That was the big risk there. Of course, also the big risk is criminal charges and indictment and prison and all of that stuff. But I've always said, people like Trump, people like Hillary. Trump's a little bit of a different category, right? I don't put him in the same category as Hillary, but I think he's still in that upper category of people who they don't go to prison for this type of stuff, I would suspect. Now, they hate him to a degree that you never saw, but I remember the same thing happening with George Bush. They were also drooling, frothing at the mouth over George Bush. And now Barack Obama walks around and holds hands with him. It's just a thing. I think that as long as Trump's a threat, they've got the knives out for him. As soon as he's not a threat anymore, then there'll be a new threat. It'll be Ron DeSantis or whomever, but it's just a cycle with them. And that was still a big risk, right? When we spent a ton of time on that story, but he's the sitting president. And so that takes that same risk category and 10x's it. Here's the Washington Post, January 14th. In an effort to show cooperation with the Justice Department, Biden's personal lawyer released new details about the timeline of events regarding the finding of the documents. Biden's lawyers found additional documents. One document with the classified marking on Wednesday in a room adjacent to the garage. And then they stopped searching the property because they do not have security clearance. Okay. So let's add that to the mind map, actually. Found one document with classified markings on Wednesday. Wednesday was the 11th. That was the third batch. Okay, that's interesting. So, extra document. Because remember, Merrick Garland said that this morning, meaning the morning of January 12th, they got a call saying that there was another document. He made his announcement on
Whether
12th.
a crime was counsel. Mr. Lausch has served because I was confident. On December 20th, President Biden's personal counsel informed Mr. Lausch that additional documents bearing classification markings were identified in the garage of the president's private residence in Wilmington, Delaware. President Biden's counsel informed Mr. Lausch that those documents were among other records from the period of the president's service as vice president. The FBI went to the location and secured those documents.
Got it. January 5th.
On January 5th, 2023, Mr. Lausch briefed me on the results of his initial investigation. Based on Mr. Lausch's initial investigation, I concluded that under the special counsel regulations, it was in the public interest to appoint a special counsel.
When? What day? What day was that?
In the days since, while Mr. Lausch continued the investigation, the department identified Mr. Herr for appointment as special counsel.
Mr. Herr is amazing. We love him.
This morning, President Biden's personal counsel called Mr. Lausch and stated that an additional document bearing classification markings was identified at the president's personal residence in Wilmington, Delaware.
Okay, that was on the 12th, right? That was this morning. That was on the 12th. That was the whole statement. That's when the order of appointment came down. Let me just make sure that these dates are right, because that all happened on the 12th. Yeah, the order of appointment, special counsel, January 12th. All right. So the Washington Post then tells us that something else came out on the 11th. So Biden's personal lawyers initially found one document on Wednesday. The 12th was a Thursday. So they found the document on a Wednesday, but then they didn't notify, right? That's this document here, in other words. That's this one. So Biden's personal lawyer found it, called the U.S. attorney the next morning. That's the one that Merrick Garland was talking about. All right. Just so we have that clear. They don't have security clearance. Then a White House lawyer with clearance, Richard Stauber, arrived on Thursday and then found the additional documents. All right, so then Stauber shows up on this day. Yeah, so on this day, Richard Stauber, White House counsel, arrives. And that actually is the fourth batch, fourth set at Wilmington. See if we can find a photograph. I couldn't find a photo, I think, of Richard Stauber. See if we can get him. Okay, this is what the Daily Mail says. That's this fella here. So Richard Stauber, he will be arriving and handling. Okay. I usually don't clip from this computer, so my settings are all wonked up. All right, so there's Richard Stauber. So he comes and he finds an additional set of documents on January 12th, and it's about five additional documents, according to says, because I have security clearance, I went to Wilmington on Thursday evening to facilitate providing a document to the personal counsel that they found. While transferring it to the DOJ, who accompanied me, 5 additional pages with classified markings were discovered among the material with it for a total of 6 pages. All right, but so the pages were separate then. So it's 1 page, 6 pages. Are they part of the same document, separate document? We don't know. It says 4 additional pages. All right, so the first set was 1 document found on 111, DOJ notified on 112. Yeah, so we're actually gonna move this over to here. All right, so now we can see. All right, so regardless, the point remains still the point. Karine has been, I think, very dishonest about at least the 1220 documents. She should have told us about these. She knew about this one and she didn't tell us anything about it. All right, so we're tracking the origin and then the revelation. So again, people are deleting comments and we're looking for tweets that were deleted. We're looking for statements by the White House that said positive things or that said negative things about Trump. We're responsible, Trump's bad. Because that would have been very hypocritical, right? You could basically anything after 12/11/4 is fair game. Any statements where they're like Trump's a monster for what he did would be just a lot of fun. All right, so back over to the Washington Post. They tell us that we've got another set also on Saturday. Bob Bauer released a public timeline of events regarding the discovery of classified documents. The statement outlines the various steps Biden lawyers have taken since last November when they discovered what they described as a small number. Nobody cares. You guys, that was your argument. You said it doesn't matter. The statements from Sauber and Bauer come days after criticism directed at the White House for not being more transparent. The president's personal attorneys have attempted to balance the importance of transparency, blah, blah, blah. Oh, good. Good. More pieces come into the puzzle. Here, the White House has not identified the lawyer who first discovered the documents. Why not? If they're so transparent about this stuff, why have they not identified him? Now, I had a sneaking suspicion that they didn't identify him because we didn't get it from them. We didn't get it from the media. But CBS, Ed O'Keefe, he told us that it was Bob Bauer. And that's what we had yesterday here, which was Bob Bauer. Where do we find him? He's the guy with the big smile, the big smiling Wikipedia page. This guy, Ed O'Keefe, asked about him. All right, so we thought that he was Biden's personal lawyers because Ed Keefe confirmed that for us.
things from yesterday. When was the president informed about the attorney general's decision to appoint a special counsel? How and by whom?
So the
When was the
specifics on that, I can tell. Here's what I can tell you.
All right, we're not going to listen to all her.
Specific to, I know with my computer,
Is indeed for us is that
White House counsel's office.
one of the things that they finally confirmed for us is that Bob Bauer is indeed the president's personal attorney handling.
Finally confirmed for us. Like, why are they not confirming who these people were? It's so shady. Even he can't get answers. This is CBS. Ed O'Keefe. He's saying, hey, can you just tell us they broke the story? Who was the lawyer who found the documents? And she says she doesn't even confirm this. He puts that word out that the White House counsel's office confirmed it was Bob Bauer, but it turns out it wasn't Bob Bauer. It's Pat someone.
Confirmed for us is that Bob Bauer is indeed the president's personal attorney handling some of this. Given that the Justice Department cited the personal counsel as having made this initial outreach to National Archives and has been in touch with the Justice Department, is that the person who these questions should be directed to? Why the White House counsel?
I will say this again. Whatever the White House counsel, my colleague told you in your conversation, I know you guys just spoke or connected earlier today.
He said that they're not really giving them any information. They just finally confirmed it for us, Karine. That was on a Friday. The story broke a long time ago. All right, so that's what we're trying to get. Who are the lawyers that are involved? And this is apparently Biden's personal lawyer, former Obama White House counsel, knows the job well for what Richard Stauber is doing, who is the other guy who showed up on Thursday. This fella. Okay, Richard Stauber used to have Bob Bauer used to have Richard Stauber's job. So these guys know how this whole game works, right? They're very experienced in this game. Brian Reinhardt says, Rob, did I put a 2022 somewhere? Call that a typo. Thank you for that. You know how much we don't like typos. DOJ notified on 1/12/2013 year typo. Oh, you're right. Thank you. Yes, it's definitely not 2013, 2023. I thought I did a 2022 because it's probably going to take me a few months to get over that. We'll see. Thank you for the correction. Okay, so we've got Stauber now. We've got Bob Bauer, but I don't know where he fits into the timeline because the only thing that we got from Ed O'Keefe, that's what I was trying to get. What was Bob Bauer's involvement? When did he show up in the timeline? Where did he touch the documents?
Handling some of this. Is that Bob Bauer is indeed the president's personal attorney handling some of this.
What parts? We don't know.
Given that the Justice Department cited the personal counsel as having made this.
Okay, so she's not going to give us any more information about specifically what Bob Bauer did. All right, so I was going to tuck him somewhere in there, right? We still have this missing person. Who is this person? And I thought it was Bob Bauer, but maybe not. Maybe it's now this fella. All right. The White House has not identified the lawyer because they're not being transparent who first discovered the documents, but a person familiar with the matter said it was Pat Moore, a longtime Biden attorney who served as deputy general counsel on Biden's 2020 presidential campaign. A political lawyer, deputy general counsel for the presidential campaign. All right, let's see if we can find more about this fellow. Pat Moore is this fella. Yep, this is him. It's his bio, and he is taking credit for that too. Interesting. All right, so this is Pat Moore, the attorney who evidently found the first batch of documents at the Penn Biden Center. M. Patrick Moore Jr., litigator and counselor to nonprofit entities. He's considerable experience in the government as an attorney in the White House and counsel to 2 Massachusetts governors, most recently as, there it is, deputy general counsel to the Biden for President campaign. Also represents a bunch of other stuff. Before joining Hemingway and Barnes, associate counsel. Also worked at the Barack Obama administration. Several years at the Boston firm. Is there going to be a Harvard in here, please? Oh, gosh. Massachusetts. Accolades. Let's see what education is. Oh, no Harvard, huh? Boston College. Bar admissions. Massachusetts. All right. All right, so that's the guy who evidently found the first batch of documents, which is very interesting. So this is Biden's personal lawyer. And that, I guess, is what we can say found this guy, right? Biden lawyer, probably Pat Moore. So this is Pat Moore. We think that is who that is. And let's see what else the article tells us. Longtime attorney Moore and another lawyer, who has still not been identified, arrived at the Penn Biden Center. All right, so we've got two lawyers now. Great. Typical. All right, so lawyer one, lawyer two, unidentified per WAPO on 1/14/2023. So M. Pat Moore was one. Other guy is definitely unidentified. We don't know who that is. So we're still going to leave it as unidentified here. Really want to know who that guy is. So this was Biden's presidential campaign lawyer. Gosh, and he would be very appropriate to go in there and move some boxes around, right? Probably pretty expensive lawyer. Guessing his hourly rate is not all that cheap. So then we've got questions because we don't know who that second batch is, because they told us in Merrick Garland's press conference that on December 20th, he said again Biden's personal counsel, but we don't know who that was. We still don't know the name of that. Let's just double check that since we're here. We're getting into it.
U.S. Attorney Lausch and his team of prosecutors and agents have conducted this initial investigation with professionalism and speed, at the president's personal residence in Wilmington, Delaware. When I first contacted Mr. Lausch about this matter, that an additional document bearing classification markings was identified at the president's personal residence.
This attorney, December 20th, the December 20th date is the date. And I forgot where he said that earlier on.
Of the president's private residence in Wilmington, Delaware. President Biden's counsel informed Mr. Lausch that those documents were among other records from the period of the president's
personal
counsel.
Mr.
Lausch as an assistant U.S. attorney in that same office. I selected him to conduct the initial investigation because I was confident his experience would ensure that it would be done professionally and expeditiously.
On December 20th.
On December 20th, President Biden's personal counsel informed Mr. Lausch that additional documents bearing classification markings were identified in the garage of the president's private residence in Wilmington, Delaware.
All right. So again, we don't know who this person is. Still don't know who. It's going to be one of, you got to imagine it's one of those two individuals up here. One of them, Pat Moore, or the unidentified person. If they're so stinking transparent, why don't they tell us who these people are? WAPO says. Moore and another lawyer who's not been identified arrived at the Penn Biden Center November 2nd. Okay, so our dates are getting a little bit more clear. November 2nd to help empty out. While looking through the folders, Moore found a cover sheet that had classified markings on it, called the White House counsel office, according to a person familiar with the matter who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive details. The White House counsel's office informed the National Archives, and then the Justice Department became involved, right? So that's, gosh, this is great. So the lawyer, Moore found it, called the White House, lawyer called the White House, who called the National Archives, who called the DOJ prosecutor. That matches what Garland says. The White House informed National Archives, the OIG, who then informed the prosecutor. Okay, so that matches. So in other words, the WAPO source matches what Garland said. But this is different, right? This is a different date. That says that'll happen on the 2nd. Okay, so actually, we have a new date, which is when Moore actually showed up. Right. So it looks like Garland is just starting from when the DOJ got it. All right. So we'll listen to it again. It sounds like he's picking it up after the DOJ. Right. He says, we got it on November 4th, but it took a couple days for them to start the whole thing. Let's go back.
Whether a crime was committed, similar to what Mr. Garland did for former President Trump. The Attorney General has arrived to the podium. Let's listen in.
I'm here today to announce the appointment of Robert Hur as a special counsel pursuant to Department of Justice regulations governing such matters. In keeping with those regulations, I have today notified to designated members of each House of Congress for the appointment. I'm joined today by John Lausch, U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, who conducted the initial investigation into the matter that I will describe today. On the evening of November 4th, 2022, the National Archives Office of Inspector General contacted a prosecutor at the Department of Justice. It informed him.
Okay, perfect. So that's when the call came in. So we can actually separate this out a little bit. Love this. Woo, woo. This is good stuff. All right. So he says that basically the only things that happen here, this stuff did not happen on this day. The National Archives, OIG, called the DOJ prosecutor. This other stuff happened on this day. November 2nd, a Biden lawyer was at the Penn Biden Center. We do know that Pat Moore was there. We know that Pat Moore was joined by somebody else. So we don't know who made the phone call or what took so long. What was the delay between those days? All right, so November 2nd was a Wednesday. November 4th was a Friday. Oh, interesting. So that's a Wednesday. That's a Friday. So what Biden lawyer made the phone call? Who at the White House got the call? Who called the White House? Who at the White House got the call? Ron Klain, chief of staff. When did everybody get involved? Like Ron Klain, KJP, who else? Right, everybody else. Then Biden lawyers, so DOJ picks it up. And I guess we don't know necessarily when the OIG got notice of this and what happened at the OIG. So we're missing a gap here. Who was National Archives, OIG? When did they get the call? Because it went from the lawyer to the White House. We need to know when it went from the White House to the OIG. Then we know on November 4th, the OIG then called the prosecutor. That's where Merrick Garland picks up. So we get a lot more details on that, which is just great. Documents are found. We're going to put these two guys over here. Document discovery. You see how they get so sneaky with these dates? These people are just so, they do this intentionally. It's to obfuscate the whole timeline. So it's confusing. So they actually found the documents on November 2nd now. We finally learned that. So they had even more time to notify us about this. Right. From November 4th to November 8th, you're saying, okay, that's really, really close and so on. But it was actually November 2nd. They had 2 additional days to process this stuff. And that was on a Wednesday. So they intentionally delayed. It makes it even worse for them, which is why they try to keep this stuff undercover. Some of the classified materials found in the office was marked top secret, according to some people familiar with the matter, also talking on anonymity. On Thursday, special counsel appointed Robert Hur. We learned about him. Jack Smith's going after Trump. Garland's decision to appoint Hur followed an initial investigation. Initially, about 10 total, according to people familiar with the matter at Penn. So we've got, let's just be clear on the total documents. So we'll do about 10 in the first batch. Don't know that we know the number in the second batch. I think we know that in the third batch, the third batch was 1 document. Okay. This is part of the number 3 batch. And then there's yeah, this is getting confusing here. All right. I don't know that we know the total that was in the garage, or we didn't know, but I think we can piece that together. I think the total found at Wilmington is going to be 6. Is that right? They found an additional set. 5 additional came in. There was 1 in the garage and 1 in. All right, let's just go back and see if they clarify this for us. Yeah, here. December 20th, a lawyer for Biden, who we don't know who that is, notified that an additional classified documents were found. How many were in this? Open an investigation. They would not say when the material was found. The second batch of classified material was first reported by NBC. A small number of classified documents. That's all we get. How many? Search the second location. Yeah. All right. So we're going to have to just keep teasing this stuff out and sort of piecing it together. There's some gaps in the total number of documents, but I don't know that that's necessarily that consequential. We know that they just keep popping up. 4th set popped up, 5 additional pages, new set at Wilmington. That was discovered on January 12th, or that was reported on January 12th. An extra batch was ultimately found. But again, we don't know what personal lawyer this article just tells us. It's only the Biden's personal lawyers initially found one document on Wednesday in a room. So it's hard to tease out who's doing the finding. Is it the same guy? It's not Stauber. It's got to be either Bauer or is it Bauer? Might be Bob Bauer. And does he have clearance? After Garland announced the appointment, Sauber said, "We're confident." After news broke, Biden told reporters he's surprised, stopped using his office at the Penn Biden Center for some time. Classified materials were found amongst Biden's personal documents, along with Beau Biden's funeral documents. Yeah, university says that it's still operating over there at Penn Biden with limited staff. That person did a walk by. We played a clip of that person who did a walk by the center, and there was nobody there at all. It's just a big money laundering operation, in my humble opinion. Republicans took control. Mike Turner of Ohio requested that the ODNI conduct an intelligence review. Yeah, they did that for Trump, so it sounds fair. Nobody wants to comment on it. Ooh, okay. So this was good. This was good. I'm glad we went through that. Thank you for taking the time with me to go through that. All right, let's see what you guys have to say about this, because we added some good stuff to the mind map. Oh, by the way, this is Washington, D.C. right now. This is a live shot. It's a little gloomy. It looks a little gloomy out there. Got some clouds in the sky. It actually doesn't look that much different from how it is out here today, out there in D.C. Oh my gosh, I think I see some confidential documents over there. You see those floating around there by the fountain? Yeah, floating away. All right, let's see what you have to say. No one says, "I just got done watching last night's stream, and I was a little shocked to notice that Rob and KJP are wearing matching outfits. Suspicious. Has Rob been compromised?" And look at these two just yucking it up here, just laughing it up about the country falling in total disrepair. Karine Jean-Pierre's just like, "Oh, whatever, whatever." And this host is just like, laughing at this whole thing. Like it's just a big joke. Yeah. Total collusion. He probably is from Russia too. Oh, crap. Paul found one of my old photos. Oh, man. My old high school photo. Oh, man. He busted it out in our locals chat. Here it is. Yeah, it's true. It's all coming true. I can't hide it anymore. We're related. Oh, my middle name is Jean Guavier. That's how you say it. Robert Jean Guavier. Oh, man. Busted. Ah, dang it. Paul got me again. Well, now that you know, Roberta Pierre Guavier, related to Karine Jean-Pierre. Oh, no. We will be back here on Monday, and I hope you have a very beautiful weekend. You make it an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye, my friends.